For decades, Alan Jackson stood quietly at the center of American life, not by demanding attention or reinventing himself with every trend, but by letting his songs speak in a voice that felt familiar the very first time it was heard. His calm baritone carried the rhythm of back roads and small towns, of ordinary lives shaped by patience, responsibility, and quiet dignity. To millions of listeners, his music became inseparable from memory itself. Summer radios humming in the background, long drives with the windows down, family cookouts where laughter mixed with melody, and late-night reflections when the world finally slowed down. Yet beneath the steady presence and effortless warmth was a life shaped by sacrifice, personal failure, faith, and resilience. Alan Jackson's story is not simply about fame or chart success. It is about endurance, humility, and the quiet strength it takes to keep showing up when life does not unfold the way you imagined. Roots in a modest beginning, Alan Eugene Jackson was born on October 17, 1958, in Newnan, Georgia, the youngest of 5 children in a working-class family that believed deeply in honesty, discipline, and earning your way. He grew up in a modest home that had once been his grandfather's tool shed, a place filled with the sounds of routine labor and simple living rather than luxury or comfort. His father, Eugene, worked long shifts as a mechanic at a Ford assembly plant, while his mother, Ruth, managed the school cafeteria and carried the emotional weight of keeping the household steady. Money was often tight, but expectations were clear: work hard, stay humble, and treat people with respect. Those early years shaped Alan's worldview in ways no amount of success could undo, grounding him in an appreciation for everyday people and the quiet pride that comes from building a life with your own hands. Discovering the power of song music first entered Alan's life through the church, where gospel hymns echoed every Sunday and carried emotional weight long before he understood melody, harmony, or lyrics. Those songs told stories of struggle, hope, and faith, and they planted something deep inside him, even if he couldn't yet put words to it. As a teenager, he discovered country artists like Hank Williams Jr. and John Anderson, and suddenly music felt personal. These songs weren't about fantasy or escape. They were about people like his neighbors, his parents, and himself. When his parents bought him a $50 guitar at 16, it was a modest gift, but it changed the direction of his life. He practiced constantly, learning not just how to play, but how honest he sounded when it was set to music. Taking the first brave steps. By the time Alan stepped onto a stage for a high school production, something inside him had already settled into certainty. Performing didn't feel like pretending or showing off. It felt like belonging. After graduating, he worked a series of manual jobs, including construction and odd labor, supporting himself while writing songs late into the night. He formed a band called Dixie Steel and played wherever someone would listen, hauling equipment, setting up stages, and sometimes leaving with little more than gas money. Those nights were exhausting, uncertain, and often discouraging, but they built resilience. Alan wasn't chasing glamour or fame. He was chasing purpose, believing that music was his way out of a life that felt already written for him. Love before the spotlight. Long before awards, radio hits, or sold-out arenas, Alan met Denise, the woman who would become his wife and emotional anchor. Their first meeting was awkward and unforgettable, marked by youthful confidence and laughter rather than romance straight out of a movie. What followed wasn't dramatic or rushed. It grew slowly through shared conversations, simple dates, and mutual dreams about a future that didn't yet exist. Alan proposed on Christmas Eve, and they married in 1979 in a quiet ceremony that reflected who they were: grounded, hopeful, and committed. Their love was shaped in ordinary moments long before success added pressure, temptation, and distance to their lives. The leap of faith to Nashville. In 1985, Alan and Denise packed up what little they had and moved to Nashville, believing that if music was ever going to work, it would happen there. Reality, however, was far from romantic. They lived in a small apartment, counted every dollar, and faced rejection far more often than encouragement. Alan worked in a mailroom to pay the bills while playing music at night, and Denise continued working as a flight attendant to keep them financially afloat. Those years tested not only their patience, but their marriage and faith, forcing them to decide repeatedly whether the dream was worth the cost. They stayed because they believed perseverance mattered more than comfort. A moment that changed everything. Fate intervened in the most unexpected way when Denise met Glenn Campbell during a flight and spoke honestly about her husband's music. She didn't exaggerate or beg, she simply shared their story. Campbell listened, offered encouragement, and handed her his business card. That small, generous act opened a door that had felt permanently closed. Alan later reflected that this moment changed his life, not because of luck alone, but because someone finally believed enough to listen. Finding his place in country music. In 1989, Alan became the first artist signed to Arista Nashville, and his debut album, Here in the Real World, arrived the following year. The songs resonated immediately because they didn't chase trends or polish away imperfections. They felt lived in and real. When Alan received his first gold record, Glenn Campbell was there to witness it, completing a circle that began with a single conversation on an airplane. Success arrived quickly, but Alan never lost sight of where he came from or why he started making music in the first place. Standing firm when trends shifted. As the 1990s unfolded, Alan's career soared with songs that became woven into American culture. While the industry increasingly leaned toward pop influences and crossover appeal, Alan stayed rooted in traditional country storytelling. Critics sometimes labeled him stubborn or resistant to change, but for Alan, protecting the soul of the genre wasn't negotiable. Songs like Murder on Music Row reflected his belief that authenticity mattered more than commercial trends, even if it meant standing apart from the mainstream. A song that spoke for a nation. In the aftermath of September 11th, 2001, Alan wrote, "Where were you when the world stopped turning?" In a single day, letting quiet reflection guide his words. The song didn't offer political commentary or dramatic conclusions, it offered shared humanity. When he performed it live, audiences listened in silence, hearing their own confusion, grief, and questions echoed back to them. It became one of the most meaningful moments of his career, not because of awards, but because it allowed people to feel less alone. Family as the true center. Despite professional success, Alan's deepest fulfillment always came from family. He and Denise raised their daughters away from excess, prioritizing presence over privilege. Songs like Drive for Daddy Jean and Remember When were rooted in real memories, lessons passed down, moments shared, and love that matured over time. Music wasn't separate from his personal life, it was an extension of it. When success tested love, fame, and constant touring eventually created distance at home, and Alan later admitted to mistakes that deeply hurt Denise. Their marriage faced its hardest season, marked by separation and painful self-examination. Denise spoke openly about losing her sense of self during that period, while Alan confronted the emptiness his choices had created. It was a painful chapter, but one neither of them avoided. Choosing grace over walking away, rather than letting the damage define the end, Denise chose forgiveness rooted in faith and strength. Alan accepted responsibility and committed to change. Rebuilding trust took time, honesty, and humility, but their reconciliation was real. Their marriage emerged stronger, shaped not by perfection, but by accountability and grace. A symbol of renewal. One of the most meaningful gestures in their renewed marriage came when Denise restored Alan's first car, a 1955 Ford Thunderbird he had sold years earlier to help buy their first home. The gift symbolized sacrifice, memory, and commitment, a reminder of who they were before fame and what they had survived together. Facing illness, together life tested them again when Denise was diagnosed with cancer. Treatment reshaped daily life, forcing them to slow down and focus on what mattered most. Alan stepped away from the spotlight to be present, reinforcing that family was always the priority. Loss that changed the family. In 2018, tragedy struck when Alan's eldest daughter lost her husband in a sudden accident. The grief was overwhelming, but the family leaned into love and compassion, choosing to honor his memory through service and empathy rather than retreating into silence. Living with his own health battle. In 2021, Alan revealed he had been living with a hereditary neurological condition affecting balance and mobility. He spoke openly, clarifying misconceptions and refusing to let the diagnosis define his identity. Though incurable, it did not silence his voice or spirit. Singing through the struggle. Even as physical challenges increased, Alan continued performing, adapting while maintaining the emotional connection that defined his career. Singing became an act of determination and gratitude rather than ease. A farewell filled with gratitude. When Alan announced his farewell tour, it wasn't an ending, but a celebration. Each performance honored decades of shared memories, music, and resilience, offering thanks rather than sorrow. Life beyond the stage. Today, Alan lives quietly, spending time on his farm, restoring old cars, fishing, and enjoying his role as a grandfather. He still writes, still reflects, and remains connected to the audience that walked alongside him for decades. A legacy built on honesty. Alan Jackson's legacy isn't defined by charts or trophies. It lives in kitchens, cars, and quiet moments where his songs continue to play. He stood firm in authenticity and proved that music rooted in truth never fades. When the music carries. On one day, the stage lights will dim, but Alan Jackson's voice will remain woven into American life. Not because it demanded attention, but because it felt like home. His songs endure as reminders that honesty, resilience, and love are timeless.